All right, buckle up for a deep dive
Oh, this can be good.
into a world that's, well,
Yeah.
a little bit strange.
I love strange.
We're going to be looking at Chris Butler and his Science of Identity Foundation. You might know it as SoI, right?
And you sent over a ton of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of material.
Articles, forum, discussions, even some court documents.
Oh, wow.
It seems like you're really trying to understand Butler's stance towards people who were his followers, but then they moved on to other Vaishnavite groups.
Yeah, very specific.
Yeah.
And it's clear from these sources that
Yeah,
there's some pretty strong feelings about all of this.
definitely. And just to be clear up front,
Yeah.
we're going to stick to the facts that are in the materials he sent. We're
Right.
not going to take sides or
Like
judge.
Badge.
We're just going to try to help you navigate this whole thing.
Yeah, think of us as your guides through all this information.
Oh, I like
The
that.
Sherpas, yeah.
Okay, so to really get this, we got to start with Chris Butler. Yeah, the man himself.
What can you tell us about his background and how he became such a big name?
Well, he's originally from Hawaii. And even early on, people said he was just really charismatic, drew people in.
Yeah.
And he was into yoga from a young age, which, thinking about where he ended up, is kind of interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah.
So how did he get involved with the Hare Krishnas?
Right. Well, he met...
There's a strong connection there, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He met A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada,
Okay.
who is the founder of ISSKCON,
Okay.
the International Society for Krishna Consciousness.
Right.
And he was given the name Siddhaswarupananda.
Wow. Within that movement.
Yeah, but then things took a turn.
Right.
He ended up breaking away from traditional ISSKCON, and he formed SO,
Okay.
and later on even took on the title Jagad Guru, which...
Whoa, Jagad Guru.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big title.
Yeah, it is.
What does that even mean?
It essentially means guru of the world.
Oh.
And claiming that title definitely ruffled some feathers
I bet.
in the Vaishnavite community.
Yeah.
A lot of people thought it was a power grab, frankly.
Oh, wow.
And you add to that,
Okay.
his own father, who was a doctor, called him a narcissistic psychopath. Now, we're not here to diagnose anyone.
Yeah.
That definitely adds a whole other layer
Yeah.
to the story.
It's very intriguing.
Intriguing is a good word.
Okay, so how does all this tie into the Science of Identity Foundation, the organization he started?
Right. Well, so Wahai runs a bunch of meditation and yoga centers, but they don't always use the same name.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you'll see names like the Australian School of Meditation,
Okay.
the Chaitanya Mission, or even just mantra meditation in Hawaii.
So they're kind of using different names in different places?
It seems that way. They
Yeah.
often include the location,
Okay.
or they use terms like Chaitanya or Gauranga,
Okay.
which are significant in their tradition.
Gotcha.
It makes you wonder why they wouldn't just use SoI all the time.
Yeah, maybe it's a branding thing.
Could be.
Trying to get a wider audience, maybe.
Right, maybe not pushing the religion side so much.
Yeah.
And it's not just the names that are interesting.
Oh,
Their recruitment methods have also got people talking.
really?
It's not just about, like, public events
Yeah.
or setting up a booth at a festival.
Mm-hmm.
Some former members actually talk about, like, subliminal indoctrination.
Whoa.
They use Butler's chants and prasadam,
Okay.
which is food offered to Krishna,
Right.
to kind of subtly influence people.
It's a slow and steady approach.
Seems to be the idea.
Interesting.
And this is where those businesses you mentioned come in, like
Yeah.
Wailana Yoga and Ajita's Veg Chips.
Right, right.
On the surface, they seem totally separate from SoI.
Right.
But you dig a little deeper, and
Yeah,
the
look-
links are definitely there.
So you're saying people could be buying yoga videos or eating chips and unknowingly supporting SoI.
That's exactly what some former members say.
Wow.
Wailana Yoga, for example, features Butler's chants.
Really?
They're credited to Sita. And in
Lovely.
Ajita's Veg Chips, very strong connections to that SoI community.
So it's like, even though they seem secular,
Right.
there's still another way to spread their influence.
It appears so.
Wow, so it's not just about the spiritual teachings. There's this whole economic system around SoI.
Yeah, it
Sounds
is.
really crazy.
It is, and it even reaches into politics with the Gabbard family.
What?
Mike Gabbard,
Okay.
a devoted follower of Butler, he was
Oh.
a senator in Hawaii.
Right.
His daughter Tulsi Gabbard,
Yeah.
became pretty well known in U.S. politics.
Yeah, I remember.
So you see how their influence can go way beyond just like the spiritual side of things.
Okay, this is where it starts to feel like we're uncovering this whole hidden network.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah. How does Butler's controversial stance on ex-followers
Right.
fit into all this?
That's a great question and something we're going to really dive into in the next part of our deep dive. We're going to look at those specific allegations.
Yeah.
Hear stories from former members. Try to get to the bottom of this whole conflict.
All right, this is going to be good.
It is. It's going to get juicy.
We're back, and I'm ready to get even deeper into this
Yeah, let's do it.
whole world we're exploring.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we talked about Chris Butler's background,
Right.
how the Science of Identity Foundation names their centers and their connections to those businesses.
Yeah.
Now let's get to what you really want to know about Butler's stance on the people who left SoI for other Vishnui groups.
Right. This is where it gets really kind of sticky.
Yeah.
You know, it's clear from what you sent us that this is not just like a theological debate or something.
Right.
There's a lot of anger and hurt.
Yeah, and we're seeing that in those forum posts and letters, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Some of them talk about how disappointed they were in Butler.
Okay.
They say he became less accessible over time, and they felt like they needed more than what SoI was offering.
So they were looking for something deeper.
That's what it seems like.
Interesting.
Yeah, they started looking elsewhere, and that's where people like Narayan Maharaj come into the picture.
So these people were really trying to find something more in their spiritual practice.
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
But Butler saw this as a betrayal.
Right. Oh, yeah. He really came down hard on anyone connected to Maharaj.
Really?
Accused them of blasphemy.
Wow.
Even warned of, like, terrible spiritual consequences.
That's pretty intense.
Yeah.
Sounds like he took it personally.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, instead of people just, like, trying out different things.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting point.
Yeah.
Because it gets to the heart of what makes this whole thing so complicated.
Yeah.
Butler, you know, he's charismatic.
Yeah.
He built up this following around his teachings and his personality.
Yeah.
And it seems like to him, any change from his path was like a direct attack on his authority.
It's not just about the religion, then. It's about power and control.
That's one way to look at it for sure.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember that this reaction from Butler wasn't just about Maharaj.
Okay.
The stuff you gave us shows that he condemned people who left SoI for other groups too, like Gaudiya Math, ISIS K-Con, even IPBYS, which is more like philosophical.
It's like he saw any involvement with other teachers as a threat.
Right, like it was undermining his own influence.
Right, but why would people stay if they feel controlled?
Yeah, that's the question a lot of former members ask.
Yeah.
And it's tough to answer.
Yeah.
Some might stay because they're scared of those spiritual consequences Butler talked about. Others maybe genuinely believe he's the only one with the answers.
Right.
And then you have the people who don't have those negative experiences and stay devoted.
It's a really tough spot for anyone stuck in the middle.
It is.
Let's change gears for a sec.
Okay.
You mentioned allegations of abuse within SoI. Can you tell us more about that?
Of course, this is sensitive stuff.
Yeah.
And we have to emphasize that these are allegations, not proven facts.
Yeah.
But there are stories from former members, especially those who went to the SIF school in Baguio City, Philippines, that raised some serious red flags.
Okay.
They described this environment where if you questioned Butler or his teachings, you were met with punishments.
Wow.
Isolation, even physical abuse.
So like a culture of fear and obedience.
That's how some former members describe it.
Wow.
And it's not just the school.
No.
Some devotees say they were pressured to give tons of money to SIO,
Really?
often putting themselves in financial trouble.
And this connects to what people have said about Butler's lifestyle, right?
Yeah, exactly.
People say he lives a life of luxury that doesn't fit with the image of a renunciate, a sannyasi.
Right. The traditionally idea of a sannyasi is someone who's given up all their worldly possessions and stuff to focus on their spiritual practice. Yeah.
But we hear from former members about Butler living in opulence.
Okay.
Multiple homes, expensive cars,
Huh.
all the fancy things.
Wow.
And that gap between what he teaches and how he supposedly lives has led to a lot of criticism and skepticism.
Yeah, I can see how that would happen.
Definitely.
So we're seeing a pattern here. Allegations of controlling behavior, financial pressure.
Right.
A leader who might not be practicing what he preaches.
Yeah.
But there's another piece of the puzzle you mentioned.
Oh, right.
Patrick Bowler.
Yeah.
How does he fit into all of this?
Ah, yes, Patrick Bowler, also known as Paramahamsa Das within. So he was a big deal, a prominent devotee, and supposedly a major financial backer for the organization.
Okay.
But there's a dark side to his story.
Oh.
He got convicted of drug dealing.
Really?
Not once.
Wow.
But twice.
A drug dealer involved with a spiritual organization.
Yeah, it definitely raises eyebrows.
That's an interesting combination.
It is.
So what was he dealing? He was involved in large-scale marijuana trafficking.
Wow.
And his convictions really hurt SoI's reputation.
Yeah, I can imagine that didn't go over too well.
Not really the PR a spiritual group wants.
Right. How did Butler react to all of this?
That's where things get a little fuzzy.
Okay.
There are public statements out there condemning drug use.
Okay.
But some former members say Butler kept hanging out with Butler.
Really? Even after he was convicted?
Yeah, even after.
So it seemed hypocritical.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that just made things worse for people who were already questioning, so.
Yeah, it added fuel to the fire.
Definitely.
So all these things, the ex-followers, the abuse allegations, the Butler situation,
right,
they all seem to point to the same problem.
Yeah, and that problem becomes even clearer when we bring in another key figure.
Who's that?
Joseph Bismarck.
Okay. He's a big follower of Butler.
Devoted follower.
Okay.
But he's also really involved with a company called QNet.
QNet? I don't think I've heard of them. What do they do?
Well, QNet's a multi-level marketing company,
Okay.
and they've been in hot water for years.
Oh, really?
They've been accused of being a pyramid scheme.
Oh, wow.
With all sorts of shady recruitment tactics and financial exploitation.
Okay, my head's spinning now.
I know, it's a lot.
How does a multi-level marketing company connect to a spiritual organization?
Right.
And what's this got to do with Joseph Bismarck?
That's what we're going to uncover in the final part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll explore Bismarck's connections to SoI,
Okay.
to QNet, and even to the Gabbard family.
Okay.
We'll see how all these seemingly separate pieces fit together to create a bigger and maybe even more disturbing picture.
Oh, man, I'm on the edge of my seat now.
I know, it's going to be good.
All right, we're back for the last part of our deep dive, and I got to say, this has been a wild ride. We started with yoga studios and veggie chips, and now we're talking about allegations of abuse, a drug dealer, and a multi-level marketing company. What is going on?
Well, you know, things can get pretty complex. But remember, that's what makes this so interesting.
Yeah.
We're trying to help you see how all these seemingly random pieces actually fit together to make a bigger picture.
Okay, so let's try to untangle all this. We left off talking about Joseph Bismarck and QNet. Remind me, what's the connection to SoI?
Right, so Bismarck is a devoted follower of Chris Butler. But he's also a high-ranking figure in QNet.
Okay.
And this company, as we said, has been accused of being a pyramid scheme.
Oh, wow.
They've even had legal problems in a bunch of different countries.
So someone who's really close to Butler is involved in this potentially shady company.
It's definitely troubling.
That's not good.
No, and it gets even more complicated.
Oh, no.
Remember Down to Earth, that vegetarian grocery chain?
Yeah.
Bismarck has connections there, too.
Oh, wow.
And if that wasn't enough, there are reports linking him to the Gabbard family.
Wait, are you serious? Yeah. So this one guy is connected to SoI, a multi-level marketing company with a bad reputation, a grocery store connected to SoI, and a powerful political family.
Yep, you got it. That's great. It's a web of connections, and it really raises a lot of questions.
I like that.
Some former SoI members even say these connections are more than just coincidence.
Okay, what do they think is happening?
Well, they claim that Butler actually encourages his followers to join QN.
Really?
Yeah, he supposedly sees it as a way to make money for the organization.
So using a multi-level marketing company to raise funds.
That's what they're alleging.
Doesn't seem very ethical.
It does raise ethical questions.
Yeah.
And remember, QNet's been accused of taking advantage of vulnerable people.
Right.
Pushing them to invest money they really can't afford to lose.
Yeah.
If Butler really is promoting this company within. So that's a huge red flag about his leadership and how he treats his followers.
This is where it starts to get really scary. It's one thing to disagree about spiritual stuff or leave a group, but when you add in this potential financial exploitation and shady business practices, it's just a whole other level of messed up.
I agree. It definitely adds a whole other layer to the situation.
Right, and this goes back to those former members who left SoI for other teachers. They said part of the reason Butler freaked out was because they weren't giving money to his organization anymore.
Yeah, some of them have said that.
So maybe he's using these ideas of blasphemy and spiritual danger to control people and their money?
It's possible.
That's really disturbing.
It is, and it shows how important it is to think critically
Yeah.
Especially when you're dealing with groups that have a charismatic leader and a really strong belief system.
Yeah, it's easy to get swept up in all of that.
It is. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement and the feeling of belonging.
Right.
But you got to take a step back.
Yeah.
Ask questions.
Yeah.
Consider different perspectives. Be wary of anyone who says they have all the answers.
It's so important to remember that.
It really is.
I think what we've seen in this deep dive is that things can get really murky. It's easy for spiritual teachings to get mixed up with money and power.
Yeah, it happens more than you think.
It's like a cautionary tale.
Yeah, it really is. And it reminds us that knowledge is power.
Okay.
The more we understand about these situations,
Yeah.
the better we can protect ourselves and other people,
That's a great point.
from potential harm.
I think you've given our listener a lot to think about.
I hope so.
We've covered a lot of ground. We looked at Chris Butler's background, dug into those strange practices of the Science of Identity Foundation,
Right.
and uncovered this web of connections that raises a lot of questions.
Yeah, it's a lot to process.
It really is.
But remember, this deep dive is just the beginning.
Right.
What you gave us was a great place to start.
Yeah.
But there's always more to learn.
Exactly.
Keep researching, keep asking questions, and keep coming to your own conclusions based on what you find.
So true. And if there's one thing we want you to take away from all of this, it's the importance of thinking critically and doing your own research. Don't just take our word for it. Dig deep, connect those dots, and always be willing to challenge your own assumptions. Thanks for coming along with us on this crazy journey. Until next time, stay curious.